This video is scripted, edited, and written by Nihar Dash. This video is scripted, edited, and written by Nihar Dash. 20 most popular programming languages for your open source project, which is written by Nihar Dash. For public domain purpose only, as open source projects continue to thrive with increasing momentum. Even large corporations like Google, Microsoft, and Facebook are adopting such projects of their own. Contrary to the direct opposition faced by pioneers of early open source projects, today, most open source developers are hailed in high regard within the community. Thanks to the smart implementation of the most popular programming languages, open source development has turned the tide in its favor. So here is our list, which is written by Nihar Dash for public domain purpose only. 1 JavaScript 1 JavaScript 1 JavaScript. It should not come as a surprise when you see JavaScript at the top of almost every modern list of most popular programming languages. Thanks to its continuous integration into the latest open source projects, JavaScript has experienced a massive growth many of us old folks never anticipated. There's more than one driving factor behind this latest trend of using JavaScript in open source projects. JavaScript. With the inception of the infamous Node.js runtime, developers can employ this language in both their project's back-end and front-end projects. Plus, more than 94.9% of all websites today use JavaScript. 2 Python 2 Python 2 Python. One of the most used programming languages of our time, Python continues to hold its ground among open source contributors and isn't going away soon. As a full-fledged language, Python can be employed in many different types of projects, including but not limited to developing APIs, crawlers, scrapers, back-end systems, and so on. You can even develop complex desktop applications using this popular dialect of computer languages. Python programming language. Python is heavily incorporated in machine learning and data analytics, thanks to a vast number of top-notch plugins and third-party libraries. Libraries like SciPy and Panda have a massive fanbase and are exceptionally popular in the industry. 3 Java 3 Java 3 Java. One of the best programming languages to ever walk the console of open source developers, Java is still relevant to the community like it was decades ago. Since its emergence in the early 90s, Java has retained its position as one of the most popular programming languages, and for good reasons. Java programming language. The JVM, Java Virtual Machine, paradigm employed in Java makes sure any software written with this language will run on virtually every system. Other top programming languages often unmatch Java's ability to scale even the most extensive applications. 4 C++ 4 C++ 4 C++. The sequel to C, the pioneer of the modern world's most used programming languages, C will not be redundant in decades to come. Every complex system in the world, starting from your operating system to a large government mainframe, utilize C in one form or the other. C programming language. Even Google uses this language to power its most resource-intensive operations. As C gives developers access to very low-level system components out of the box, it is used extensively in every type of embedded system we're familiar with. As embedded systems like IoT devices and smartwatches continue to rise in popularity, C will be used much more in the future. If you're a developer looking to break into this industry, only C can aid you to your most anticipated breakthrough. 5 Swift 5 Swift 5 Swift. Considering it's a much newer language than some other picks, Swift is going very strong these recent years. The massive boost experienced by Swift, one of the latest programming languages, is due to the convenience it offers to open-source developers. Swift has a lot to offer the language behind most modern iOS applications regarding developing high-tech open-source projects. Swift programming language. The scope of building iOS apps has contributed heavily to an increasing number of Swift developers as Apple's iPhone continues to retain its position as one of the best mobile smartphones to date. Swift is obvious to understand and is very expressive. It enables even the newest developers to power flexible and modern iOS applications. So, we can't but anticipate a bright future for this awe-inspiring programming language. 6 TypeScript 6 TypeScript 6 TypeScript one of the trendiest latest programming languages. TypeScript is designed and maintained by Microsoft. It's basically just a superset of JavaScript, with the additional ability to static typing. TypeScript is deemed suitable for almost every large-scale web application and can also aid in developing desktop applications, thanks to cross-platform frameworks such as Electron. TypeScript programming language. If you're looking forward to building the next generation of web apps and finding JavaScript to be too confounding, you can embrace TypeScript for your project right away. TypeScript reduces many of the redundancies associated with JavaScript without compromising any of its functionality. So, it's the best programming language to develop modern open-source projects that utilize a lot of web components. 7 Go Programming Language 7 Go Programming Language 7 Go Programming Language. One of the latest programming languages to gain rapid growth, Go is promising to tackle some of the hardest computational problems with a relatively subtle approach. It's a brainchild of Robert Griesimer, Rob Pike, and Ken Thompson, and Google maintains all the pioneers of this top programming language. Go Programming Language Go Programming Language combines all the benefits of C, like being a static typed, compiled language, and adding modern features such as garbage collection, structural typing, and CSP-style concurrency. The language is straightforward to grasp even for new programmers while being extremely powerful at the same time. 8 Sql Despite being in the industry for decades, Sql isn't going to lose any of its charms soon. This is still one of the top programming languages that can make or break your job. Interviews. Sql Programming Language. Although Sql aims to solve problems for data management and can't be used for developing other more traditional software, Sql is and will be the go-to language to tackle all those data associated with most modern applications. Also, as we continue to see a massive rise in the data analytics field, Sql opens up newer possibilities for developing cutting-edge open-source projects. With an increasing number of data-based open-source projects coming out every day, it's time to embrace Sql, one of the most popular programming languages, and build something extraordinary for your peers in the open-source community. 9 Ruby 9 Ruby One of the most used programming languages of this generation, Ruby was developed in the mid-90s but gained most of its notoriety during the last decades. It is an interpreted, dynamic, and object-oriented language, much like Python, and even feels the same in many aspects. Ruby programming language. With the inception of powerful web frameworks such as Ruby on Rails and Sinatra, Ruby started to power most modern web apps before losing the spotlight to JavaScript stacks. Many famous modern web apps such as GitHub, Airbnb, Ask4Me, Goodreads, and Fiverr utilize Ruby in one way or another. Popular open-source projects that employ Ruby include Homebrew, Discourse, Metasploit Framework, and many more. So, Ruby is the language to learn if you want to start contributing to big open-source projects right from today. 10R Programming Language. 10R Programming Language. 10R Programming Language aimed at aiding complex statistical analysis and solving redundant graphics programming. R is one of the top programming languages reigning in these past years. The language is most suitable and used for ad hoc analysis and exploring large datasets. R programming language, however, you can even use the R programming language for open source data mining projects also. R is one of the two most used programming languages used by data scientists, along with Python. R has much stronger object-oriented features than most statistical programming languages and comes with lexical analysis to ease your programming experience even further. 11 Philippine Pesos. 11 Philippine Pesos. PHP. Although it lost its once reigning position as the de facto programming language for the web, PHP is still one of the most used programming languages around the globe. As there was no web language comparable to PHP during the Internet's rapid growth, PHP fueled almost every modern website until the emergence of newer web languages like JavaScript and Ruby. PHP programming language. Even as we speak, PHP is behind more than 40% of the total number of active websites, thanks to a continuously increasing number of websites utilizing CMSs like WordPress and Drupal. So if you think PHP is dead, you're quite wrong. Although experiencing relatively less limelight, PHP will continue to evolve for years to come and retain its position as one of the most popular programming languages. 12 Perl. 12 Perl. 12 Perl. One of the most used programming languages in the industry, Perl has lost its share of glory for decades now. Before its large-scale implementation in system administration, web development, and network programming, the original intention behind developing this general-purpose programming language was to manipulate text documents. Perl programming language. Perl has experienced widespread popularity and criticism at the same time during its limelight, but managed to remain in every list of most popular programming languages. Although now obscure, Perl is still a sought-after skill in developers for many areas of large organizations. 13 Kotlin. 13 Kotlin. 13 Kotlin. Kotlin is among the latest programming languages like Go that's enjoying impressive traction right from its initial days. A brainchild of JetBrains, Kotlin is a statically typed new programming language that runs on the Java Virtual Machine, JVM, and can translate to a JavaScript source code. Kotlin programming language. One of the most critical factors behind Kotlin's increasing momentum is its compatibility with the Android Studio 3. Google now officially recommends Kotlin to developers who don't want to build their Android apps with Java. So, we can clearly anticipate it to become one of the most popular programming languages shortly. 14 C Haze. 14 C Haze. 14 C Haze. C# is the best programming language from the software behemoth Microsoft. It's one of the top multi-paradigm computer programming languages that can be used for many different projects. Although primarily intended for Microsoft's .NET framework, C# rapidly took on other demanding computational challenges and became one of the most popular programming languages. C# programming language. The language itself is simple and modern, with the ability to let developers take an object-oriented approach. Absent in C, you can think of C# as a blend of the C and the Java language. C# codes compile like C codes and have syntax like Java. So, if you're a programmer with adequate knowledge of Java who wants his applications to be as fast as C applications, C# is definitely the route to take. 15 Rust. 15 Rust. 15 Rust. One of the best new programming languages, Rust, has been voted as the Most loved programming language by a Stack Overflow developer survey for 3 consecutive years. Now, it is a much similar language to C and has almost the same syntactic components. Rust programming language. However, the developers intended to make this language much more memory safe than C during runtime. Overall, Rust is a general-purpose language primarily aimed at developing system applications. The language is exceptionally suitable for developing system solutions requiring greater concurrency and aims to solve common safety issues revolving around the most popular programming languages. 16 Scheme 16 Scheme 16 Scheme 1 of Lisp's 2 main dialects. Scheme is a multi-purpose computer programming language that takes a minimalistic approach to system application development and aims at extending the core with powerful language extensions. The language is very old and originated at the infamous MIT AI lab. Scheme's long history is enough to tell us how well this language lived up to its expectation of providing a singular approach to Lisp, one of the most popular programming languages during the inception of the open source movement. The language is used widely by famous web giants such as Google and Reddit. 17 Erlang 17 Erlang 17 Erlang, another latest programming language gaining tremendous momentum in recent years, is Erlang, a general-purpose, concurrent programming language with a built-in runtime. The language is known for its smart implementation of modern-day features like distributed, fault-tolerant, hot-swapping components. Erlang programming language. The language also offers developers the ability to use immutable data structures as well as functional programming. With pattern matching support, Erlang is one of the best new programming languages and tackles every real-world problem as isolated processes can interact via only passing messages. 18 Scala 18 Scala 18 Scala. You can find Scala in almost any list of modern-day best programming languages, thanks to its innovative approach to combining both the object-oriented and functional programming paradigm. The language itself is statically typed and aims at reducing bugs as much as possible right from the development period. Scala programming language. Scala is gaining rapid traction in the open source community due to its ability to run on both the JVM and JavaScript runtime. This allows developers to curate a more sustainable solution for complex web apps that require both up and low scaling. 19 Elixir 19 Elixir 19 Elixir, one of the top programming languages to come out in recent years, coupled with innovative features and sky-high capabilities, is Elixir. Elixir, one of the latest programming languages, is built entirely on Erlang and utilizes the Erlang runtime environment, Beam, to run its code. The language supports advanced functionalities such as metaprogramming, macros, and polymorphism. Elixir programming language. The language still sits in lists of new programming languages but is already being utilized by companies like eMetrotel, Pinterest, Discord, Bleacher Report, and Inverse. Using this language in your next open source project can open up new windows of possibilities for your career. 20 Haskell 20 Haskell 20 Haskell. Haskell is among the latest programming languages that have been experiencing rapid growth in programming language popularity. The language is statically typed with taking a more declarative approach to programming modern-day applications. It's named after Haskell Curry, a renowned logician. Haskell programming language. The Haskell type system incorporates a type interface with lazy evaluation, meaning functions don't evaluate their arguments. Haskell is loosely based on Miranda, one of the first computer programming languages to take a lazy functional approach. The anti-spam mechanism of Facebook is built entirely with this Innovative language.so. This is our little documentary which is written by Nihar for public domain purpose only.